Hey, all you beautiful, wise women. I was just sitting here contemplating in my womb temple before I kind of, get back into the swing of things with respects to building web pages and part of my Mystic Woman launch mode. Today was just a crazy day. In the last 2 weeks, yep, 2 weeks specifically, I have been journeying with a few different women. So some of these women are my Wisdom Keeper initiates that have said yes to going on that mentoring path with me. Others are women in my community. There's been the women that have reached out to me, wanting some advice and just a different perspective. And what seems to be a common theme that I'm noticing and something that I really want to speak to. Hey, Jess, how you going, beautiful? Is backing yourself 100%. And that is with respects to the life that you want to live and feeling confident in the decisions that you make for yourself that's going to propel you forward on your journey, which yes, is going to challenge you for, where there's transformational growth of stepping in to a new, truer kind of embodied version of yourself. And perhaps there's, things that need to fall away that, no longer serve you. But it's about like making the decisions which you need to make, even though there might be challenges in that, is to have your own back. Yeah. If you have come from any type of abusive background, or have experienced trauma, then your inner critic, so the mental chatter on the inside, and it may have a voice of authority that might correlate with your mother or your father or somebody else that's an authority figure. What happens when we come from that background is that will be dialed up high voltage. And throughout my journey, probably in the last, I would say maybe a year, in really diving into the psychology of the way that we perceive the world, the way that we act, the way that we show up, the way that we have beliefs, limiting beliefs, and how we move through them, is if you've come from that background perspective, then chances are you probably feel that that is a normal way of being, a normal way of thinking. And the reality is that it's not inherently natural to have that inner critic constantly telling you that you're making the wrong decisions, that you're going to fail, that you can't do what you want to do for, X, Y, Z, all of these reasons. And it gets to a point as a mature woman, as a wise woman, where you activate your quantum field and you're dreaming and you're manifesting and you're like, feeling empowered of the vision that you're connecting to and what you are seeking to embody in the truth of your sovereign expression. There comes a point where that voice is going to sabotage you to all ends. And that's where you've got to back yourself. You have to have your own back 100%, particularly when there is no one around you to support you through. The reality is there is always support around you, but I'm talking about in, the late parts of the night when you start to question yourself, or you start to have these feelings of doubts, whether it's really in alignment or whether you can really pull it off. And then you start to think of all of the ways in which it can't, and you begin to kind of shrink. You've really got to back yourself 150 million% to buffer you through that transitional period. Because whenever you make a decision that is going to shift you from one state of being to the next, things get wobbly. Your brain will do whatever it can to keep you in the safety zone of what has been comfortable. And if what has been comfortable is lack, scarcity, self-sabotage, doubt, self-loathing, self-criticism, playing small and shrinking, then that transition point, there's going to be some, a bit of wonky energy around. And in that period of time, it is important, as you connect with your wise woman self, so that ultimate embodiment of your truth on the timeline that you're on, to call upon her, call upon yourself, to nurture yourself, almost like a newborn. Yeah. And to back yourself 100%. You've got to be your own cheerleader. Yeah. So I want to share this because it seems to be this theme that has been prevalent in the last couple of weeks with women that I have been journeying with, and women that have been calling on me for support in, specific ways. And it's something that we, as a group, as a collective of, people that are conscious and spiritually connected and that want to better ourselves, not only for ourselves, but for the benefit of all, that we need to remember this process, and that it is actually okay to celebrate yourself and to look towards your achievements and to back it up with the facts that might be around you, and that it is totally okay for you to speak to whoever is in your circle or even on Facebook, and to actually own the parts of yourself that are really beautiful, that are genuine, that are fucking awesome, yeah? And to amplify that energy, particularly if you're an Aussie, and that, where most of us are all aware of the tall poppy syndrome, and that needs to be pushed aside, particularly when we're dealing with transformational healing and transformational growth. Now, the reality is that if you know that you're a beautiful, genuine, kind-hearted soul, which if you're in this group, you are, because that's just what I call in and what I serve, then all of that other stuff that tells you that you're not, or tells you that you can't shine too big, or you can't, step outside of your comfort zone, or you're getting too big for your britches or whatever, that's all that sabotaging stuff to keep you in that safety, in the confines of your comfort zone. And it is important to remind yourself that you are better than that you are greater than the problems that might be, surrounding you at the moment, and that you have the ability and the capacity to change your life in the way that you choose, that is in complete alignment with your divine love, light, and truth as that beautiful, kind-hearted, caring, inspirational, and phenomenal woman, and that you can learn to trust yourself, and to learn to trust the decisions that you make, and that you can back yourself 100%, even when everybody around you might not understand what your decisions are. They might not get it, but if you feel that strength of resonance in your being, then you fiercely protect and you guard it and you walk it on your journey. Now, I, for one, can totally vouch for this, because my journey and decision-making processes for some things, a lot of people didn't understand. And that was just from my perspective of seeing like the big picture, like long term. And even with my business and starting doing women's circles and things like that, there was so much amplified energy around me. We're like, who does she think she is? You can't do that. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. There was just so much stuff and negativity, and just pretty full on. Like, I've been the victim, not from my perspective, but, from an analogy point of view, of the rumor mill so many times, that sometimes the stories that I have heard, running around is just like, wow. And I have had to back myself 100%, despite the naysayers, despite people in my community not understanding my vision, not getting it. I have had to back myself when partners didn't fully get the vision, didn't understand or embrace the concepts of what I was constructing for our family, because there was children involved. And I've learnt over the years to come into this space of backing myself 100%, which gives me the freedom to express myself in the way that I do, to keep showing up regardless of what other people think, and that I also began to see from a bigger perspective and clearer eyes that those people that actually supported me, yeah, and that were they're always there and they're still there and more are coming in, I have held space for that because I learned how to respect myself and to back myself, and I showed other people how to relate with me in that sacred relationship dynamic from that base point, which is what I want to share, because there are so many women out there that are questioning and doubting and, oh, I can't do this because, and what would such and such think if I did this, and constantly second guessing themselves. And you don't need to. When you have that strong resonance and you've been checking in, you're doing your womb work, and you're coming from that space of being genuinely present in your body, grounded, and taking on the information that you have on hand and how your decision affects, the other people, or, the ripple effect from that. And you've come to that sense of acceptance and peace that whatever decision will create this particular type of outcome, then trust yourself and to go with it, because there is medicine in it. Some paths that we walk are super challenging. And I know for many women, particularly on the medicine woman path, is that when you begin to choose yourself fully, when you begin to anchor in your wise woman, the wise sage, whatever archetypal energies, the priestess, yeah, when you begin to anchor her in and she settles into your body and you begin to breathe her in, and in day-to-day life you feel yourself rising, it will create these ripples and almost disturbances in the field. Because when you change your story, when you change the way that you relate to other people, it changes the way they relate to you as well. So when we work on ourselves, when we are solidly embodied, when we know ourselves fully, we're doing our inner work, we back ourselves 100%. When you come from a space of deep self-love and respect and you show up to that in all of your weird and wonderful, glorious ways, and you can still do it in such a jovial way, it will create shifts. There will be some, if you're working on, I've got this picture of like throwing a pebble into like a stream, right? And you see the ripple. But then if another pebble is thrown of change, you'll get what's called in sacred geometry an interference pattern. So if you imagine like the two concentric circle spirals coming in and interacting with each other, it creates an interference pattern. And that's kind of what happens when we go through these transitions, is that there is some waves, there's a bit of rockiness, and all of that serves a purpose and a function. And a lot of the time that can be part of the deepest initiations, because when you choose and you're like, yep, this is what I choose for myself, this is what I'm focusing on, and you'll do what you do, you show up, you're feeling awesome, but it's like the moment that you decide, the work happens, and then things that you may not have even perceived would happen could start showing up, because you've changed your energetic signature, you've changed your vibration, you've changed the signal of what you're putting out into the world, and you are in relationship to lots of things around you, intrinsically connected with partners, with family, with community, roles, responsibility, with nature. Everything is in this sacred dance and into personal relationships. So there will be that kind of these waves, this interference pattern, this bit of rocky energy sometimes. And it can be a test. Sometimes they're really full on and really cathartic and hard. And from my experience of my initiations from spirit and my soul's evolution and journey in life, is that it's been this big test. It's like, all right, Donna, yeah, you chose to have this lifestyle and you chose to do this. Here's some stuff. see how you get through that. Do you really want it? Do you really want it? And you get tested so much. So I just wanted to share that when you feel like you've made a decision and you're connecting to this vision and you're doing your journaling and you're doing your embodiment practices and you're dancing and you're singing and you're just like calling it in, and you feel that like these shifts that happen, trust the process, trust your medicine, back yourself. You've got to have your own back, 100%. And in doing so, you will then call upon the strength of other people that can also hold your back as well. And that's a big thing that I'll probably do a separate video on, with respects to the wounded sisterhood. And I think that was a big reason. What year are we in? We're in 2018, baby brain. So going back 4 or 5 years ago, I really felt this theme come up, and I myself kind of stepped back from the work that I was doing because of these sisterhood wounds and this interesting and fascinating energy kind of moving through that was not genuine and not grounded in authenticity of actual support and solidarity. Yeah, and so when you go through these journeys, you might also feel that sometimes we can feel like we're walking alone. And like I've been on that journey where I realized that sometimes it is actually much better to walk alone as sovereign, knowing what you're consciously creating and putting out into the world, than to have a lot of chatter or people around you which actually do not serve your greater good, or they're not actually supporting you. And you can tell a lot by the people that really have your back when you're in these challenges. They're the ones that will be around. They're the ones that will help you through. They're the ones that are going to notice that you're going through something, and they'll check in because they have a beautiful, genuine connection to you. So I just wanted, that just came through and it needed to be spoken, just sitting here on the couch, and I felt like I needed to spark this conversation. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you are journeying through anything like that, then let me know. And I know that it's one thing that I've noticed with the wisdom keepers that have said yes and that have started the journey. And one thing I've said to them all is that the work begins the moment you say yes. And when you make that declaration to what you want and what you're calling in, that's when it happens. It's not like, a week or two after, or where you feel like you're in a groove, or, creativity or whatever. It's the moment that you decide is the most powerful moment, because everything changes. And just quickly, if you're ever feeling like you're stuck on something, what I've learned, I don't know where I picked this up, but so this is not coming from me. This was an external influence, and I just can't pinpoint where it was. It might have been like some random meme or something online, right? But it's like, if you're ever stuck and you want to make a decision, one of the best things that you can do is to flip a coin, and you'll soon know the decision that your soul, that your heart is calling for you to make. Because usually what will happen is, at the moment that you flip it, because you think you're undecided or uncertain, you'll flip it, and while that coin's in the air, you'll probably be wishing for either heads or tails or a specific outcome, which will then tell you the decision that you really want to make. Yep, Jess, I will definitely be doing a post, probably do a live stream on that. Writing has been a little bit challenging for me at the moment, just with so much going on, and I found that just creating the videos and live streams are a much easier way for me to communicate at the moment, although I do love writing. I was actually looking today at some different Airbnb options to go away for a retreat weekend and start writing my book, which I've said was, it's coming, but then I think I've got like 10 books inside of me, and I'm like, what do I focus on doing? So I'd like to, kind of create that space to drop in on that. The Wounded Sisterhood is an interesting one, and I think it is an archetypal energy. It's a collective thread of her story, which is quite strong, and a lot of women feel into, and is a reason why a lot of women hold back from doing this type of work, like stepping into leadership roles for the sacred feminine or creating safe space for other women to gather because of this collective thread of her story. And I've seen it, I've identified it, I mapped it. So I'm sure that you've seen, identified, and mapped certain threads of it as well. But it's definitely that something is still prevalent today, unfortunately. But the beautiful part is that we get to choose. You can still see energy moving and playing out or operating through people, and ultimately you get to decide whether you engage or not. And that's a beautiful power to behold, just from that space of conscious awareness and sovereignty as well. And that also feeds back into, you know, having your own back and backing yourself 100%. I've learned over the years that now when I get this, how do I describe it? I pick up on energy really quickly, like really easily. Normally as someone's walking towards me, it's like I scan them and I get like an energetic read of like, Sometimes when there's I don't even know what it is, but spirit will like hit me in the side and it just like turns me away like, no. And there was a long time, so this is with men and women, that I would still be curious to go, well, why? Why did I feel that way? And just not trusting that intuitive response, that energetic feedback. And then, you know, lo and behold, I would eventually find out why these people were usually abusive or just manipulative or just wanting something, you know. It wasn't a genuine or mutually beneficial relationship. It was very one-sided. So sometimes, you know, I'd have to go on these medicine paths and journeys in relationships to figure out, oh, okay, that's why I had that little, or that red flag. And now I've gotten to that point where I just listen and I trust it. And I've come to the point where, you know what, I've gotten really comfortable and accepting in not having to know why, not having to know the why of things, which is quite unnerving if you're critically minded and you like to figure things out like me, right? It's just like, I don't need to know. And it has been quite a liberating experience, and also has helped me focus on what I'm creating and what I want to create in the world and what I seek to emulate and embody, and the type of world that I would like to invest in, rather than being curious to why my intuition is telling me these things. All right, I'm going to wrap this up because I can feel myself, everything's kind of opening, and that's when I start to go on crazy, wild, slippery slope tangents. So I'm really mindful of respecting your time, and I was only hoping that this would be a quick little live stream anyway, but sending everybody so much love and many blessings. You would notice that there's a lot coming through me at the moment, so I've got a lot of different threads out there. So the Wisdom Keeper Initiates, there's 8 spots left for that. I've got the Mystic Woman Magic Boot Camp, which is coming, like publicly being launched in the next 2 days. And I've got womb song stuff going as well. So I've got a live training. And the reason why this is all happening is because I'm in this activated state of my pregnancy, knowing that in 2 months, everything starts to retreat. So I've got to make the most of this time that I have now to be out there and to be of service before I go into my sacred realm of activating the birthing spiral and unplugging from the external world and dropping in and listening. So yeah, just most people that love me love my crazy, wild, weird, wonderful tangents. It's a good thing that I get paid to talk, right? And that was one thing that I consciously created. I'm like, what am I really good at? I'm really good at talking and just like bloop, 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 just accessing stuff in just, I don't even know half the time what comes through me. I'm still learning as well. That's the beautiful part about backing yourself and having your own back and just trusting what comes through, rather than second guessing and doubting it. So to wrap it all up, have your own back. You're such a beautiful woman. You deserve to have that full powered 100% support, yeah, which got to come from yourself first and foremost, and then you'll start to see it around you that you deserve that. And that when you're feeling called to make decisions, make them from that space of clarity, of tuning into your intentions and what you want, and make your decisions so that you're doing it in such a way that you're certain, and it can only create good. Yeah, even if there's the rockiness or some waves that happen to recapitulate everything, there is medicine in that, and trust the process and trust yourself. Yeah, because so many of us doubt. You know, I still go through waves of that, just not as much anymore because I catch myself. So I sending you all so much love. Have a beautiful evening or day. If you're watching the replay, hello. I am going back into computer mode and crazy creation mode. Mwah! Love ya. See ya.